The Department of Homeland Security is counting down to the end of a pilot of the Continuous Diagnostics and Mitigation Dashboard. 15 agencies feed information into the dashboard. Kevin Cox is CDM Program Manager at the Department of Homeland Security. James Saunders is Chief Information Security Officer at the Small Business Administration. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Kevin, I'll start with you. What's the status of the dashboard? What are you learning from the pilot program so far?
So we've been working with Small Business Administration over the last year and a half to test with the assets that SBA, Small Business Administration, has in the cloud, the ability to get the CDM data, meet the requirements of the CDM program, to ensure that as more and more agencies move out to the cloud, that we can support them as well as support the federal leadership in terms of reporting their security posture status. In regards to the new dashboard, we're rolling out the Elasticsearch dashboard. We've deployed it to one agency in deployment with multiple other agencies. And so we expect, as we head into October, into the beginning of the new fiscal year, that we will see the new dashboard deployed widely throughout the federal agencies.
Kevin, in this interaction with SBA, what have you learned from James and his team and the interaction with his team about what an agency like SBA needs from you and what you need from them in order to be able to feed information?
Certainly. We want to make sure that we understand each unique mission of the federal agencies, that we understand the technologies they already have in place, and bring our program, bring our technologies, bring our processes to them to meet where they're at, so that we're have as low level of disruption as possible in order for them to continue to make progress on their mission, yet helping provide the tools that will help from a security posture standpoint as well as risk management standpoint. In terms of the things that we've learned from SBA with the presence that they have in the cloud, the work that we've done with them has really been integral in terms of helping shape the CDM program's direction for bringing CDM to the cloud. And so it's been a really great partnership that has informed the process for deploying CDM to cloud resources and getting, again, the agencies the perspective they need, as well as our federal leadership.
James, welcome to the conversation. Thanks for joining me today. What does this look like from your perspective? What are you putting into this with DHS, and what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, so we have a really great partnership with DHS, Kevin in particular. So the data we're putting into the cloud environment is everything, what is formerly known as phases 1 through 4, what's in your network, who's in your network, what's happening, and how you're responding. So we're actually capturing all that data from across the entire spectrum. And we actually take that data and we transform it into actions, to automations, to something that actually provides impact. And the best part of it is that we're actually able to use the tools that we already invest in, rather than going out and procuring other tools that will cause us to have a duplicate tool stacks. Mm-hmm. So in short, we're able to use what we have. We're heavy in the cloud. We like being in the cloud. We really don't want to have to go backwards in order to go with CDM. And through Kevin's leadership with CISA, we're able to achieve that.
James, over the years, we've covered the progress that SBA's made in its modernization journey broadly across the information technology shop, not just in information security. But I wonder what of those steps you would attribute particularly to the ability that you have now to be ready to participate in something like what DHS is doing. Obviously, the transition to the cloud is one thing, but I imagine there are other elements too.
Yeah, I would say it's culture and it's the willingness to partner. Those were the two big things that really help us really take advantage of the technology we have in place versus just waiting for DHS to let us know what's going on. So I would credit the culture that we built here at SBA. And our fact to really be trailblazers, to go for it and try different things. Because at the end of the day, you have to innovate, otherwise the adversaries will always be one step ahead.
Kevin, is it possible that the results of this partnership with SBA will turn into an impetus to convince agencies, if you haven't accelerated your cloud transitions yet, you can now from a security perspective, because you're able to give us information and we're able to give you information back to see what your peers at other organizations across government are doing?
Indeed. I think from the work we've done with SBA, it's demonstrating what we as a program can do, working with the agency, again, in regards to where they are with their current computing environments, as well as their plans for the future, including going to the cloud. And it's through the successful partnership with SBA and with other agencies on other pilots that allows us to really partner well with all of the civilian agencies, but also give them a level of comfort that when we do come to work with them in regards to new initiatives that they have underway, that we will bring the right people to the discussion, the right technologies in order to help them be successful, in order to help them get the right visibility from a cybersecurity perspective. Because as James had indicated, our real aim is to help the agencies get in front of the adversary, get in front of the threat. And I think that I would argue that we are building that trust and demonstrating that through partnerships such as what we have with James and his team over at SBA.
We've talked about where you are today, gentlemen. When we come back for the second part of our conversation, I want to dig into what's next for both of your organizations and what you can learn from each other to project that forward. More of my conversation with Kevin Cox and James Saunders when Government Matters continues in just a moment. Welcome back. My conversation continues now with Kevin Cox, the CDM Program Manager at the Department of Homeland Security, and James Saunders, the Chief Information Security Officer at the Small Business Administration. Kevin, I mentioned before we broke that I want to move to what's next. What do you do with the partnership that you have with SBA to scale it, to work the same way with other agencies, or what have you learned that you'll use to work differently with other agencies moving forward, or whatever the next steps are, Kevin?
Indeed. One of the things that we learned in working with James and his team at Small Business Administration was also the importance of the relationship with the cloud service providers. So within the CDM program, we are already partnered with a number of system integrators, as well as a number of the vendors in the cybersecurity community. And a key new partner here is the cloud service provider themselves. So working with them for both us, the program, but more importantly, the agency, to understand what tools does the CSP, the cloud service provider, have that do help meet the CDM requirements, do help the agency get the data they need to really get the visibility they need of their data, of threats to those data points, and help them be successful. And so that's been a key outcome of our work with SBA. And we're already working with a number of other cloud service providers as well as our other partners within Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency to really build out those relationships with the CSP providers or the CSP business partners to be more successful and be prepared to be successful as more and more agencies move to the cloud.
Kevin, it strikes me that viewing those CSPs as partners makes perfect sense. If you do that, what do you need from them? What makes them a good partner? You've already described what makes James at SBA and his team a good partner. What makes that CSP a good partner in that equation as well?
Well, I think one key element is communications, that the program from CISA is communicating to the CSP so that they understand what our objectives are, what we're trying to do to help the agencies. And from our program perspective, making sure we understand the nature of the CSP environment that's being established for the agency, understand the tools that the CSP provides, so we can make the connections. And in many cases, the CSPs can then look to see if, for example, a particular requirement's not met now by some of the tools they provide, what they might be able to do in the future to fulfill those requirements, including potentially looking at some additional tools. Or it might make sense where if the CSP is unable to meet a particular requirement, that we, the CDM program, could bring another solution set that would connect in and make sure that we can provide the right visibility to the agency. So it's really building those communications channels, making sure both sides, including the agency as well, understand the nature of the environment and the tools, and then building from there.
James, as a result of this partnership, as a result of this information exchange with DHS, have you or do you expect to do something differently strategically, accelerate something you were already planning to do, but maybe push the timeline faster, change direction, continue at pace because you believe it's strategically the right decision? Anything like that? Has this had any impact on how you're approaching security moving forward at the agency?
Yes, the answer is yes. So the biggest thing that we're looking to do is actually collapse our CDM programs. We actually run two CDM programs. One is what I like to call the legacy CDM, which is the current state, what we all know as CDM. And the other is the cloud CDM modernization pilot. We actually keep the lights on for that. We actually use that one. So what we really want to do is collapse both of these CDM programs into one under Elastic and take advantage of all the data that we're pulling from our CSPs, from our on-premise systems, as well as various different mobile assets. So we really want to consolidate all the data together and then get to really start automating and building automated responses. We're talking zero trust and touch and tick, different topic, of course, but we really want to start doing that with the data made available to us through our different CDM approaches.
James, does that look like a merger? Does that look like a transition from the legacy system to the new one? Will you pick elements of both and combine them together? What does that look like?
It looks more like a merger of sorts. It's taking the data from the current state CDM, the cloud-based CDM, smashing it together basically under the new Elastic dashboard, and then really start extracting that data and that value out of that to feed other initiatives and other programs. For example, I really want to push the agency forward and get to ongoing authorization, so we move away from the 3-year ATO cycle and to something that's more closer to the issue, closer to the threats, closer to anything we need to resolve. So that's one of the things I'm looking for a CDM under the new model that Kevin's leading up to accomplish for us.
Kevin, we have less than a minute left. What does success look like for this dashboard program and for the broader dashboard concept in the CDM world?
Sure, it's looking at a number of key elements that the agencies get the data visibility that they need via the dashboard, that the dashboard, regardless of the agency network architectures, can scale up, can perform at a high level, and ultimately that it can provide the analytic tools to the agency to get the greatest value from the data that they're going to get from that visibility, so that they ultimately can better manage their security posture, better manage their risk, and that is a key outcome for the CDM program. And as James had indicated, helping evolve how we tackle cybersecurity in the civilian agencies so that we are ultimately able to get in front of the threat and remain there.
Kevin and James, thanks very much for the conversation. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.